Hi, welcome to our YouTube channel again. This is Jane and Jaye Anne, and we're here again, but we're in person together, so this is very exciting. Yeah. We haven't had a chance to do this for you guys yet, but we do this all the time together when we are together. We like to pull cards, so that's what we're gonna do today. But before we get into that, just make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe, and we love comments. So if you leave a comment, that's probably the best way to get in touch with us. And that, or you can go to janehealing.com and you can get in touch with either one of us. Just go to the contact me form. And if you want to get in touch with Jane, just say, hey, I want to talk to Jane. So yeah, she's off the grid. Ish. Yeah. 1 foot in the grid, 1 foot out. All right. So today is 12/12. We're doing the 12/12 portal, and it's 12/12/21. So there's a lot of synchronicity here happening. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, pretty crazy. So, what are you experiencing?
Well, we just ended another portal with that solar eclipse, right?
About a week ago, right?
And this one is like, I think it's, I don't know, I'm not like that really into the astrology and things. This one in particular, I think is like this energy has not been here for 500 years or something. But 12/12/21 to 12/21/21, both of these are 11 days. If you're not with numerology, 1 + 2 + 1 + 2 + 2 + 0 + 2 + 1 is 11. And so obviously it's the same with 12/21. So it's like an 11/11.
And they're 11
portal.
days apart.
And they're 11 days apart. And this is the end of the year of the twin flame, which 11/11 is associated with. Yeah, I don't know. I'm having very strange dreams very often. And more intense of my personal most important healing, which is the heart, because I live through my heart, but without really seeking it. Like sometimes I like go to heart chakra classes and like do things, but it's just kind of happening.
Yeah. What do you think the theme of this portal is? Like sometimes it's transformation, sometimes I mean a lot of portals are about transformation.
Right. So I think it's like kind of similar to transformation, but kind of how we're talking about one of our first episodes with the solstice, because 12/21 is also the solstice. And we're moving into 2022. It feels more like a tunnel, kind of like I would equate it to, like, I live in Pennsylvania in the middle of nowhere. So like when I go to Philadelphia, there's this tunnel that you go through, and before you go through it, you have all the crappy like middle of nowhere Pennsylvania radio, and when you get on the other side, you get all the good Philly radio, and it kind of feels like that to me.
I love that metaphor. It's beautiful. It's like yeah, when you go through the like all the messages you were getting before were probably a little confusing, and that there's going to be more clarity in what feels more in alignment with who you are.
Plus, like the last 2 years have been difficult energetically, and kind of increasingly so in some ways. And 2022 is supposed to be the year of wish fulfillment and abundance. So
that sounds great.
Yeah,
I like it.
I know. I'm here for it.
I like it. So how do people have to show up? What does that mean to show up for this portal? Is it just something where like a water slide and we're just like whoosh and here we are, or is there work to be done?
There's always work to be done, but I think it's also willing to do the work and to be open to it. Like you have to go down and the water slide, you have to get onto the water slide, which is usually the scariest part, right? Because then you're just going. So don't shut it down, don't shut it off, don't be afraid. You know, the normal stuff, only it might be more of an intense, not that's ever easy, but more difficult time to do so. But you don't want to miss, I don't think you want to miss this one. It also reminds me of like Excite Bike. I'm aging myself now. When you hit those little arrows, you know, and it's like zoom for like a minute.
Yeah, but you've got to actually try to hit the arrows.
Right.
You
can't miss the arrows, or you're like going your same speed.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love it. So we have some cards that we're gonna pull, because pulling cards over, when we're far away is a little bit different. So we don't get to do that often. So we're gonna do that. We have the butterfly card. This is by Doreen Virtue, and if you ever heard of Doreen Virtue, she's really into angels and things like that. But this is a butterfly deck. Butterflies are all about transformation, right? That's the metaphor of the butterfly. Is you were one thing and you went through this process of metamorphosis, and during that metamorphosis, internally you're breaking down and coming apart,
and you're literally surrounded in darkness.
That's true. On the outside, it looks like nothing's happening.
That too. That's huge.
So if you have people in your life who are like
you're just stuck there for a while,
and they're like, you're not doing anything. You're like, I don't know, my whole world is coming apart. You're inside the chrysalis. So that is how a butterfly changes. And then when it comes out as an entire piece. It's not like bit by bit by bit by bit, and you see this like progression, like with some other types of insects where they look like tiny baby versions of themselves as adults, and then they just get bigger and bigger versions of themselves. I think grasshoppers do that. When butterflies go through metamorphosis, they look like something totally different, and it looks like they're doing nothing, and then all of a sudden, poof,
and then they can fly.
And they can fly. Yeah. So if you're feeling that way, just keep with it. So, but here's some good ways of kind of dealing with that process, and like a little bit more specificity around what it means to go through that process for you. I always shuffle. Hold this for a second. I always shuffle until I get a card pop out, because normal is not what we're looking for. Like everything is the same, everything is fine, blah 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 blah, and like we're gonna go, like sometimes I'm gonna do a spread, right? I'm gonna go flip 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 flip, right? And there it is. When I do cards, I always like to shuffle kind of haphazardly, and then when something pops out like that, pretty clear. You know that's like, what you need.
I think I'm picking that one, but I'm second guessing myself the whole time. It's like, okay, well, I guess that one was picked for me.
Exactly. So there's two. We've got two picked. Keep going. Maybe we'll get a third one.
Three.
Usually it's three. So if I'm doing a spread, like a lot of times what you get is you're like, okay, I'm gonna shuffle really good, and I'm gonna use all the top cards. And then I get behind and I'm sure that works for a lot of people, but I get in my head too much and I go, well, what if that was wrong? And when they pop out, I just and so when they don't pop out, I'm thinking too hard. And I had somebody do a card reading for me once, and it was over Zoom, and she's like shuffling and shuffling and shuffling for like 5 minutes, and she's like, stop thinking. Like nothing is popping out. There it is. Oh, all right. So we got our 3 cards.
The cards are a good divination tool. So there's many tools, but cards are pretty popular currently, easy to find, and they work.
It kind of gives you a hint to the right path,
right? Or if you're like, right, because you can just be going throughout your day and like these things, you keep seeing synchronicities or whatever, numbers, and like, well, and sometimes you look up, what does that mean? Or it could be things in nature, like you keep seeing butterflies or whatever, and it means something, it's a message. But with a card, it's like a much more direct message.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one that popped out is this one, which is religion and spirituality. Funny enough, it is the cover of
it's on the back
box, and it's on the back
of every card.
And so this is the box. This is our card today. So this is important, obviously.
Yeah.
And it comes with a book. If you've never done cards, like divination cards, you have a book. When you do tarot, it also has a book, but there's a more well-known meaning, sort of like when you have like a regular deck of cards with like suits and stuff, it has a very clear meaning for the specific cards. But these aren't as clear.
Oracle cards are sort of written with an intention. So the book can be more, I mean, the book's always important, especially if you're just learning, but the book can give you your clear message. Sometimes also it's in the art on the card. So always pay attention,
Mhm.
look at it. The colors, like the blue, I'm sure is probably, and the pink relevant.
Yeah, and these are roses on the back, which is very much a heart chakra flower. Religion and spirituality. Your spiritual life is shifting because you're getting in touch with your honest beliefs. What worked for you in the past doesn't ring true for you now. This may cause confusion within your family or within yourself if you are leaving a religious tradition. Your loved ones may worry about your spiritual safety as you venture into areas they don't understand. That's a big one. That's huge.
Mhm.
It is not up to you to win your family's approval of your beliefs and choices. However, if you are following a spiritual teacher, do use discernment before leaping in with a full commitment. Make certain that everything is as it appears to be and that you retain your ability to exercise your free will. Most importantly, be sure that you are happy and on a spiritual path that is aligned with your sincere beliefs. Additional meetings, marital conflict over different religious beliefs, blending a multi-faith family, returning to your childhood religious path, converting to a new religion, spiritual study, or teaching. This is big.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. This one has not come up for me in a long time. You were the one who actually
Yes.
popped this one out, but yeah, this was a journey for me of like probably 5 solid years and having this ability to, and we both went through this, but like in different religions. Because while we're cousins, we didn't grow up in the same religion, same faith.
Nope.
So, but our moms kind of treated it the same way, which was interesting.
They're both kind of what's the word that I always use? Starts with an E. Why can't I think of that?
Evangelical.
No. Anyway, they're both like
They're
anchored.
Anchored. Yeah. Stubborn.
Yeah. There is nothing else.
Once they get on some kind of a bandwagon.
Extremists, that's the word. They're both extremists.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They get on a bandwagon. They are the whole existence of that.
And it's tunnel
Mm-hmm.
belief.
Mm-hmm. And that's what this card is really about, is like if you're going to start some new spiritual journey, make sure that you're making decisions and that somebody else is making decisions for you or telling you how you have to live your life. And I think that with our work, that tends to happen a lot of this dichotomy of like other people thinking that we shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z and putting that on us.
Because a lot of us still hold our religion. Like, so I was raised a Buddhist and moved into Christianity, but since that, I obviously believe in many other things that not all Christians think are acceptable. And that's fine. And that's that way with a lot of religions because of the purpose of religion and how they're formed. But it's okay. I really think all religions, for the most, as long as they're looking up, they say, or like to the light, it's just a guide, right? And find your way and don't judge yourself, and definitely don't let others judge you. And you can protect yourself. You don't have to tell everyone everything you believe all the time. I don't.
Yeah.
It's not always appropriate.
You don't need to justify what you're doing by having other people validate it.
Right.
Especially if it's like if you really are looking for a specific person's validation. I know that that's always very hard to let go of, but that might be the answer. And in my case, I finally let go of it like 5 years ago, and this person's coming around going, "Oh, that's what you were talking about." And I get it now. And it's not necessarily a religion. It's like, back when Moses was running things and he told people to wash their hands, and then nobody wanted to wash their hands out otherwise, and they thought it was this weird religious thing, but it's really just science that hadn't been proven yet. And like, yeah,
there's a lot of ancient wisdom that is science that has not been proven yet.
Mm-hmm.
And if you pay any attention to science, a lot of the new science is literally just proving all of these things that they knew for thousands of years.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think also so that went into the teachers that you follow.
Mm,
And
yeah.
before I was baptized, before I even chose a church, like I met the pastor, and it was a very synchronistic divine sort of thing, which we won't get into right now. But it was really about that for me. It was about the teacher I was following. And even once I, made this decision, I was like, well, sometimes I still chant, or I still believe a lot of these things that I was raised believing. I feel like I'm adding to that. And he understood that. Like, he did not shame me. He kind of gave me a way to reconcile my beliefs, which is huge.
Yeah.
And discernment, especially if you're stepping, in religion, but also into spirituality, right? Because there's not like a structural necessarily system of how you become a teacher or whatever. The discernment is really huge. So always go back to your divine source or your higher self in that. Like, I've also have a spiritual teacher on this, like, that's a human, and she's awesome. But there are people out there that, might mislead you. Sometimes it's not easy to tell.
Yeah, and if you check in with yourself, and I always just muscle test. That's what I do. And some people, like, if you understand what I mean by a muscle test, great. If you don't, then we can go into it in another video. But sometimes that's the way for me to check in, is just with muscle testing. And the question is this person trying to control me, or is this person igniting something within me?
Yeah,
that's a different thing, right? And most of the time, people are trying to control you out of their own fears or their own bullshit, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's because, so I'm in a group, right? And this person is more and more into energy work, and it's an energy work group. And she also happened to be Mormon. And so somebody said to her, I'm really worried for your soul, because you're into this energy healing stuff and it's really not of God. And then starts talking about her own grief, about her own loss, and continues talking about this loss that she had and her grief around that. And then conclusion goes, love you, sis, hope you, change your ways, right? Like, that had nothing to do with the person's energy healing work. It's that this energy healing concept triggered some grief within this other person that she was supposed to be clearing. But because she had this mindset, she turned it towards the energy healer and was like, you shouldn't be doing this. But it had nothing to do with the energy healing. It had to do with this person having this grief that she couldn't clear, and a fear of energy healing to begin with. So if you run into people like that, pay attention to what they're talking about instead of having your own reaction, because you'll see more and more people are just talking about their own pain.
Yeah,
that's it.
Very often. And I love the energy healing example, well, because obviously I do energy healing and so do you, but I don't know what people think Jesus was doing when he was laying his hands and healing people, if it wasn't energy work. Right. The laying of hands, I mean, come on.
Or it was the one lady who the one lady who touched his cloak. Yes. He was like, just knew that if she had done that, everything was going to clear. And the other guy,
he emanated such
powerful, just clearing work. And so there's a very and I grew up non-denominational evangelical Christian, right? Which is like a lot of pressure for somebody to be like, oh, I have to save the world. But also, like, there's this whole other piece of use your gifts, but don't use them for money. Your gifts are only of God if the pastor says that it's of God, right? Like, these are these dichotomies that are within the culture of Christianity that is not necessarily within the Bible. And so I didn't think that we were getting into this today.
No, that's what we're doing.
Right? I spent a lot of time tersing out the difference between the culture and the actual stuff in the book, the actual stuff that Jesus did and said.
Right.
And that took me a long time. It took me a lot of Bible study to actually recognize this. I spent a lot of time in the Old Testament and in Genesis going, how did this all start? And then stuff that Jesus said. And that's been a whole
like, how did he actually
journey.
act? What did he actually do? And what did he actually say? It's a lot different from how some people teach it.
Right. And even in like the watered down versions of multiple translations, there's stuff that comes through and you're like, this is not how the church practices it. And but it says this very clearly here. So
and I mean, I read, that's not the only holy book that I read, I also I'm also currently reading the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita, and there are other holy texts that there's a lot of similar messages, but there's also additional information, additional perspectives that might help you understand something in a different way. But in any case, like, I guess it's a Christian saying, but I would say in any religious following, go back to the word, like go back to the text of the ascended master, right?
Yeah. And for anyone who is Christian and has a really hard time going, but I can only read the Bible. In Proverbs, that's fine too, right?
I mean,
but
you can get a lot out of it.
If you have this draw to read other texts, but you're not okay with it within yourself, somewhere in Proverbs it does say, wisdom is crying out on the street place, in the marketplace. Wisdom is literally everywhere. And that was the thing that set me free from being like, well, I have to follow this one specific mental pathway of reading the Bible and experiencing the world. But it gave me permission to say, no, I can find wisdom anywhere. Wisdom is in my children. Wisdom is in, the time that I step on their Legos, like whatever it is.
Wisdom is in nature. A lot of people where they first experience the divine is just within our natural world that's around us. Yeah. And also, I want to mention this just in case there's anyone out there that wants to talk about how the Bible speaks against tarot and divination. I came to terms with this fairly early on in my own beyond Christian understandings and delving into tarot and other things. The Bible speaks against things that are dangerous for the layman. And so I like to use the example that a lot of people understand because they made movies about it. So like, for example, a Ouija board. So this is something that can open you up to other realms of reality and existence. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be dangerous. And I feel like, especially in the case of the Bible, it's a very simplified version of this is how you get to the light, right? Like for the people in the time when it was written. But some of us in the Bible does also speak of spiritual gifts. So we, have differing and some similar spiritual gifts. And I'm sure many of you watching do as well. And again, it comes back to that discernment. So with your gifts will come the discernment to understand where the messages are coming from, how to focus on the light and protect against the darkness. So some of those things, like it's like sinning. We're all going to do it, but it warns against it because it's going to cause you pain, right? So with the divination tools, I think it warns against it because people that don't have the gifts shouldn't be using them. They should go to someone with the gift that has the discernment.
Yeah, because the discernment is like the filter, right? Like if you use the internet without a firewall, without a filter, you're just going to get whatever comes in.
Like me, all my laptops crash because I don't know anything about computers.
That's why I'm doing this. Off the grid.
Yeah, right.
No idea. But if you have gifts and you have discernment and you have the if you're like more, as you increase your vibration, your filter improves and you can see what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for you. But like with Ouija boards, since they're secular forms of contacting the veil, it just end up with
you're open to everything.
And so as we're aware with like lots of movies, bad things like to use that to come through, and also ghosts like to try to use it to trick you and just mess with your head. Those things are true, but as long as I don't use them.
Well, and there's always the checking in too, like because even with the cards, sometimes I'm afraid that I'm being misled and that other things get in, even though I know I'm highly divinely protected. But I will check in with my guardians as well, and I don't know much about the muscle testing, but I'm sure once I learn that, I will use that also.
Yeah. Well, that was a big one. Religion and spirituality.
That was the first one that fell out.
That was the first one. So please comment if any of that spoke to you, because I'd love to hear.
And feel free to discuss amongst yourselves in the comments. That's always fun. You all come from different backgrounds. Yeah.
I do love that. Yeah. Okay, the second one is parental care. And you see there's 2 tiger swallowtails right here. And I love tiger swallowtail. I have one in my car. And,
Beautiful.
a lot of reasons. So let's read about that one. Because we're gonna have a 3-hour video if we keep talking.
Right.
And then I always sing my ABCs. I don't remember. There it is. This card indicates that the parent-child roles have reversed. Oh my God.
I've had a feeling it was going there just because of what's been happening.
And you are now involved in caretaking of your folks. Elder care is a process of attending to your elderly or medically challenged loved ones, which can mean a big lifestyle change for you. Of course, you care about their health and comfort. However, do you balance your own health and comfort? You drew this card because your aging parents are weighing on you, and you are guided to ask for help and support from healthcare professionals and other relatives. It seems that you might have been assuming that no one else would lend a hand, yet garnering appropriate assistance is essential to everyone's well-being. Loving someone does not require you to be a superhero or wreck yourself to save him or her. Love takes everyone's highest good into account, including your own. Additional meanings: caring for a friend or relative, deciding on living arrangements for your aging parents, healing your relationship with your parents. I am on the front cusp of this, right? Like my parents aren't young, but they're not old, and they're not like really needing care. But it's definitely something that I need to think about for the future, is how am I going to take care of myself in that process, and seeing other people going through that, like grandma
Right.
for 30 years, that whole process. So
for me, I think it's more about healing my relationship with my parents, but all the rest of it, that's interesting because so both of our grandparents that we share died this year.
Yeah.
And my mom lived the closest and was the executrix. And she was just telling me the other day that she feels like everyone her age is experiencing this. She's moving my stepdad's parents into an assisted living facility. She knows many others whose parents are dying or have died. And she's just coming up against seeing how they've all planned that end part of their life, and they're all different, but they're all prepared. And also, that put all of our generations a level higher, so they'll be the next to go, and this we will be in these shoes of taking care of them.
Yeah, and so I feel like this is, for us specifically, is more of a healing that relationship with our parents, and I've worked on that for a very long time. But for a lot of people, this isn't really an us card. Like you're just
Right.
This is for a lot of people who are dealing with this right now, because the baby boomer generation is going.
This is what they're dealing with, and we're making these videos for you, so these cards could very well resonate and be generally for all of you.
Yeah,
one or all of them.
I just want to sit here with this for whoever is going through this. And I hate crying. I wasn't expecting that. It was weird. Ooh. Yeah, there's a lot moving here. So you're not alone. There's a lot of people who are dealing with this. And so the metaphor I always use for really hard times that are super common is the geese. So when geese fly south, no one's carrying anyone else, right? Like geese have to make their own journey individually, but they fly together, and they fly really far, right? But they're working together, and they know that each has their own journey, but they're not alone. So that way it feels a little less burdensome. So if anyone is dealing with that, I'd love for you guys to connect with each other and send a comment, because that's the only way.
And I like a lot of what the book said, like there's no wrong way to love someone.
Yeah.
So don't shame or judge yourself if you think you're doing it wrong, or even if the older generation is difficult to help.
Mm-hmm. And
'Cause
sometimes they
it's-
don't want the help. That's the
No, I mean,
problem,
and I
right?
always try to imagine it from that perspective too, like how difficult to live a whole life and done all this, experience all this, have this wisdom, and then to have to rely on someone else and have a lot of your freedoms and things taken from you out of
Yeah.
necessity. So
Yeah,
it's
all
a
of a
lot of
sudden.
empathy.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's the middle card, which is usually a present situation.
Mhm,
And so we're being present with this.
mhm.
All right, let's see what the third one is. Dietary change is the one that I grabbed. So this is in the third position, which means it's like this is what we're looking forward to. So let's read that.
That one looks more like a moth.
It does look more like a moth, and it's on these cute purple flowers, which is interesting because purple is the purple flame is a change transformation color. It's also royalty. So if you want to think about it, like we have to continue to transform, and because we're royal, right?
Yeah, and our divine selves.
This card signals an improvement in the quality of the food you eat and the beverages you drink. Straightforward. Nothing woo-woo about this. You change your food, change your drinks. You definitely are guided to make a positive and healthful change in your diet. As you do so, you receive additional rewards of increased energy, confidence, and well-being, plus an enhanced appearance. Remember that you can receive support for this change from licensed nutritionists and groups like Overeaters Anonymous. You can also pray for heavenly help with motivation and dealing with cravings. And I think that's the licensed nutritionist is interesting because it's it sounds like a CYA there.
Right.
Additional meanings: detoxification, veganism or vegetarianism. I prefer conscious eating, so eating on purpose,
Mindful.
Eliminating allergens from your diet and home, and a change of healthcare practitioner or a second opinion. That's interesting that this is under.
That is interesting.
Because it's changing what you're consuming.
Well, and the majority of your health is your diet,
Yeah.
even though most medical schools don't acknowledge that.
Right.
But that's interesting because like I'm right there. I've been attempting to change my diet, but then I also was just telling Jay, and I'm giving myself a little grace through the holidays. I think we all need that. And even when I was at my healthiest self, I tried one year to do this whole like clean cookies and like clean, and it's like give yourself a mental break, and you're allowed to enjoy some of the finer things in life, especially when in Trish family, like of course never overindulge, maybe detox in between. I've decided I'm going to allow myself to not go to the gym if I don't make it between the holidays, even though I just started the beginning of November, starting to have it again. This, our last episode, there's a lot of stress and anxiety and time-consuming things happening.
Yeah, check out the stress. If you're going through holiday stress, check that one out.
Right. And stress can also cause weight gain. So don't stress yourself, beat yourself up about what if you're eating too terribly. It could be the stress. And also with this portal time back to the beginning, and moving into 2022, I have heard it said a lot, and I know that it's true, but food is difficult for many people, myself included. And we will need at some, like, you can raise your energy and your vibration without mindfully eating and raising the quality of foods you eat to an extent, but not fully. Like, we're going to have to fix our diets if we really want to move this planet to the ascension level, which I think is all of our goal as light workers.
Yeah.
And it's also like Jane was saying, she's not like for the mindful eating, clean eating more than the like vegan vegetarianism. Like if that's you, that's great if it works for you. But I don't think it's so much about the not eating of animals as it is about the treatment of the animals while they're alive and the manner in which that they are killed before we eat them.
Yeah, and honestly, because it's whatever you're led for.
And I believe in bio-individuality. So there's so many factors: where you live, your ancestry, your DNA, your blood type. Like you're gonna figure out, and even like your body now as opposed to 10 years ago, you might need to eat totally differently, and that is on you. It's not on anybody else to figure out or understand, and they can't.
And just like we were talking about yesterday, there's difference between a healing diet and a maintenance diet. And if you are like looking to totally overhaul your life, great, but maybe that's not sustainable from a nutrient perspective.
And maybe it's not
And-
sustainable from a budget perspective.
Right.
You know, like we can't all afford like to eat only seafood or to eat only organic. And I think in any of these instances, I just recommend, and there's a million ways to do it. And if you want, somebody to help you figure out what works for you. Like that's part of what I do. I'm not a licensed nutritionist, but I am a certified health coach and integrative nutritionist. And their detoxing regularly is good, I think, for all of us in whichever manner you can do it in time frame. There's not one right way to do that.
Yeah. And I don't know if anybody knows this because I don't talk about what I do a lot, but I should. I'd be better if I did. But I created a course around how to change your food without like over stressing about it, because if you're overthinking it, or like if you're using just pure willpower, you're gonna fail.
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
not
gonna
even
get
a real
worse.
thing. Like we should
Yeah.
really just chill out on the whole like willpower, because that's not really like
It's a resource, but it's a decision resource that
and it's a
is for
limited
other
one.
things. Yeah,
we have
Yeah.
unlimited resources within us, and that is not one
that
of
is
them.
not. It's for specific things. It's to start the engine. It's not
Right.
to maintain the engine. So, but the clearing I have is just basically getting you comfortable, like clearing out the resistance towards actually changing your food, so that way you're not, go driving yourself nuts with
Right.
willpower and self-hatred. Like that's not a good.
Right. Or obsession. Like I was
Right.
telling Jan, like when I was my healthiest, at one point I totally recognized that all I was doing all day, every day was obsessing about what I was going to eat next.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not mentally healthy
You're
or
not.
sustainable.
Yeah, you can't do anything else if you have to think
Right.
about eating all the time.
And we have a lot that we're here to do.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good little moment.
Well-rounded.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I have chills.
Whew. So this portal.
Yeah, it's bringing it all up, I guess, and moving us forward. Should we so choose?
Spirituality, parents, and food. Like these are some huge triggers, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you felt resonant with anything, please comment. I'm sure there's other people who would love to comment too, and love to see your message and what you're feeling with regards to any of this. And please, you can find us at jnhealing.com. I have an Instagram, and
I do have an Instagram.
She has an Instagram. Janer Life, right?
Yeah, it's Janer Life.
Yeah. And I have an email list, so get in on that too. So good stuff. Everyone have a great day. Oh, what's one last thing that you want everybody to know?
Oh, just happy holidays. Like we're in the midst of it now.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All the cookies.
Oh, all the cookies.
Didn't eat them all. We just made
No,
'em.
we made them all.
All right, great. Well, we will see you all next time.
Yeah.